Greetings, class. Today we're going to talk about the passive sign convention. Here, let's put this down here. The passive convention. And in some of your homework problems, they will ask you if a device is passive or not. And here's how you tell. And this is by definition. So we'll just go with the flow here. If we have some component, and let's suppose this is component number 2, and it's attached to a circuit. There's a bunch of other stuff out here which we're not going to draw. There's just things out here. There will be a voltage across this guy. Voltage drop. Let's call this voltage 2. And suppose that for this device, there's our polarity. The left end is a higher voltage than the right, so there's a voltage drop. And we have some current flowing through this device. Let's assume the current, that's an I, believe it or not. Current 2 is flowing into the left end and out of the right end of this device. So by definition, this is the passive convention because the current is flowing into the positive end of the device. So we'll say, is it passive? Yes. The current is flowing into the positive end. And because it is passive, that tells us that our power which typically we'll abbreviate as P, the power P is positive, and positive power tells us that power is being absorbed by this device. Okay, so there's our definition. If the current is flowing in to the positive end of our device, it is passive. Power will be positive, which means power is being absorbed. All right, let's do a quick example. Suppose we have a device in this orientation, and it's hooked up to a bunch of other circuitry, which we're not going to draw, but there's a bunch of other stuff out here. And if this is device number 8, there will be a voltage 8 associated with that, and there'll be some current through this guy. And let's assume the current through device 8. There's our current 8, and we get a voltage 8, and the polarity for this one is, how about that? The top is positive, the bottom is negative. So the question is it passive? Passive. So look at it for a second. Think about this. Ooh, ah, okay. You've had a chance to think. Is it passive? That's correct. The answer is yes, it is passive. We know it's passive because we see that the current is flowing into the positive end of this device. So it's passive. What does that tell us about the power? Will the power be positive or negative? And will it absorb power or not? And because it is passive, the power will be positive, and yes, it will absorb power. Alrighty, so there we go. Let's do another example. Suppose we have a device in this orientation, and it is hooked up to a bunch of circuitry out here. We don't know what the heck is going on. But we have some current flowing in this direction. And let's suppose this is number 2. So we would have current through device 2. That's an I, believe it or not. And that current flowing through here creates a voltage differential. We have V2, and that V2 turns out to be in this that's a minus sign, that's a positive sign right there. Okay, in this polarity. Is it passive? 2 S's in passive. Power. Is the power positive or negative? And does it absorb energy? Absorb energy. So, is it passive? So go ahead and take that second and answer those 3 questions. All right, that was the second. Is it passive? No. The current, we can see up here that the current is coming into the negative end of the voltage. So passive is no. It's not. So the power will be negative. And if the power is negative, does it absorb energy? No. In this case, it is supplying energy. That would be the case if this were a battery, so that it was supplying energy. We have current flowing out of the positive end of the device. There we go. That is passive convention.